This is The Wheel Weaves, a Wheel of Time podcast with no spoilers. Welcome, listeners. This podcast is safe for first-time readers because it's made by a first-time reader. I'm your host, Annie, and I'm the one who's taken on the task of reading through this 15-book mega-series. I'm joined by my co-host, Brett, who's a longtime fan, and he's acting as my tour guide on this journey. Before we get into things today, we want to welcome Spencer Weisensell and Maurice Park to the Wheel Weaves Patreon team. We're really excited to have your support, and we thank you for your generosity. And thank you to all of our patrons, because this is the first episode of September. And here at the Wheel Weaves, we're really excited to be able to give back. And as of right now, we have 30 patrons on Patreon, so we're very excited to be able to say we are donating $1 for every patron that we have at the beginning of each month to the Mayo Clinic in honor of the reason why we're all here, Robert Jordan. So that means we are going to be donating $30 to the Mayo Clinic for this month. And so we really just want to, again, thank all of our generous patrons and all of our supporters who make this possible. So this episode, we're going to be talking about Chapter 26, Whitebridge.
Yeah, and if you ever wanted to cry at a chapter, I think this is the best one to do that at.
Like yell out at the book?
No, like cry. It's super emotional.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You don't think so? Oh, we're going to get into this thing. Okay. No, that's fine.
Okay.
Just me then. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, you're crying?
It's super emotional. Okay, when we get there, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, I guess. I didn't cry.
Like,
I'm too optimistic, I think.
You're stone-hearted is what you are.
No, I am
out.
absolutely not. I am optimistic, and I don't think there's a reason to cry.
I bet you didn't even cry when, like, Bambi's mom died.
I don't even remember that movie.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
I probably did, though. I probably wasn't allowed to watch that scene, because I cried at everything.
Yeah, lots to cover, though. This is a really exciting chapter.
Yeah, there's so much to cover, so I really do think we should get into it. And okay. I think you have a fact for us today.
Yeah, and this one's pretty quick, but it's kind of from the world of what could have been. So it is a little bit sad in its own right, because this is a question posed to Robert Jordan at some point.
Okay, are you trying to make me cry now?
I'm going to do my very best here. So someone asked him, so after Wheel of Time is all finished and done, what next? And it's a pretty interesting question to ask an author. Obviously, RJ had written lots of series beforehand, and this was a gigantic saga. And his answer was, I have an idea for yet another series of books in the fantasy genre, but their events will not occur in the Wheel of Time world, but in a completely different universe. But I think it's a little too early to talk about future plans. And I just think that's really neat, because for RJ to have such an expansive universe in Wheel of Time, he already had plans and ideas for a completely different set of adventures in a whole new world.
Yeah, well, he's definitely, clearly a very creative man.
Yeah, yeah. And I just, wish that could have come to life.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, fun little fact there that he had an entirely new concept for a new book series, too.
That is interesting.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to make you cry here, so... Let's talk about Whitebridge.
Yeah, okay. So I had said previously that I really hope they go into Whitebridge this chapter.
Yeah, you did make that prediction that they would at least get to Whitebridge.
Right, and I'm right.
You are right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So there is a picture of the harp.
Yep.
Which we know to be the Gleeman sort of symbol.
Yeah, so kind of centered around Tom.
Yeah, like the chapter called The Gleeman had a harp.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's definitely something to do with the Gleeman. Mm-hmm. And that was just my initial take on that. And also right. I'm just going to toot my own horn here. But we last left Perrin and Egwene with Elias, and they were camping with the traveling people, or the Tinkers, on their way to Camelin, and they are sort of relatively safe for now. So now we're switching gears to Rand's perspective. So Matt, Tom, and Rand are on the Spray on their way to Whitebridge, and we also just found out that Matt took the dagger from Shadar Logoth. So that's
huge news.
Crazy. And Rand had another reaction to channeling the power, presumably.
Yes. And we got that distance marker of they were about 10 days out.
Right.
So it's been another 10 days.
Okay, so we start out this chapter with Matt attempting to play the flute during one of his Gleeman lessons and failing miserably. And Tom suggests that Matt work on his juggling instead. So Matt asks him why Tom is trying so hard. Like, they aren't really trying to become Gleemen. And it's just something to keep up appearances until they find Maureen and the others. But Tom asks, what if you don't find them?
Yeah, and this kind of brings up that point we made before about Tom's thinking of, like, what happens if the worst happens where they can't find Lan and Maureen or the others. What do they do then?
Right, or after reading this chapter, it kind of sounds to me like Tom is trying to keep them from the others.
It also seems like that. Yeah.
Like he's trying to keep them from the Aes Sedai rather than, okay, if you don't find them, then we have something to fall back on. Like, no, I think he's just trying to make them see a different side of things.
Okay, yeah.
But Rand is pretty firm about how they have to be alive, and then he looks to Matt for support. But Matt is continuing to be his broody, grumpy self, which isn't like Matt at all, so I'm concerned that this is continuing.
Yeah, and again, since this has been another week and a half, it looks like it's progressively getting worse. Where
Almost, yeah.
He was like by himself a lot, brooding, really moody, and now he's like even more suspicious and acting weird and strange and saying really aggressive things.
Yeah, and so Rand here asks him, what's wrong? And he says, you can't be that mad over not being able to play the flute. And Matt says, but what if they are dead? We have to accept facts, right?
Yeah.
And, well, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but he's also being overly aggressive.
Yeah, he's being a dick.
Yeah, to like talk about your friends like that.
Yeah.
Who might be dead.
That's true. So, at that moment, someone on the crew yells out, Whitebridge ahead! So, it's been 10 days for him now since the last chapter, and I actually think that went quite quickly.
Yeah, we kind of skipped time a little bit here.
Yeah, we did. So, I guess we're just assuming that the 10 days on the boat were very similar.
Yeah.
And nothing really exciting happened.
Or, like, in 3 chapters from now, we're going to get, like, a callback
flashback.
to what happened in those 10 days.
Yeah, I don't really know. But Rand's inner thoughts sort of take over here, and he tries to stay positive, but he thinks to himself about how even heroes from Gleeman stories die sometimes. And then he asks himself, are you a hero, Rand al'Thor? Are you a hero, Sheepherder?
Yeah, very interesting take on that.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of foreshadowing.
How so?
For something bigger for Rand.
Okay.
Because he's asking, are you a hero, Rand al'Thor?
Okay.
And so, like, maybe this is a call to, like, the future where maybe he will be, in some aspects, a hero.
Okay. But still maybe not think of himself as a hero?
I don't know. I didn't look that far into it.
Okay. I was just, like, going one step further there, but yeah.
No, I don't know about that.
It's kind of the question of, like, does the hero know that they're a hero?
Right.
Right? Or want to be the hero?
Mm-hmm. That's true, too. I just found it interesting that in the same sentence, it was like hero Rand al'Thor.
Yeah.
And so it's like that in itself is just a little, I think,
Yeah.
foreshadow.
Okay, cool.
So all the crew start hustling and bustling around, getting the boat ready for docking, with Captain Dawman yelling orders at everyone, and Rand focuses on what the boat is pulling up to. So it turns out that Whitebridge is named for an actual giant white bridge.
Yeah, and when you say giant, it is huge.
Yes.
Enormous.
Yeah, and this is something that Rand has heard about in stories and songs.
Yeah.
So it's a legend, and he's actually excited to see it in person.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, this thing is huge, like twice as high as the ship's mast, and we know that that was at least 50 feet.
Yeah, so like, and especially in this day and age.
Yes.
Right? Like, we have gigantic bridges nowadays, but it's like in this day and age where it's like structural integrity is like questionable at best.
Yeah, so this thing is definitely at least 100 feet high.
Yeah.
And so it looks like it's made or carved from a single piece of stone, and Rand says out loud that it looks like it's made out of glass.
Yeah.
But Dawman says, no, it's definitely not glass. It doesn't get slippery when it rains. But he doesn't know what it's made of either. And Tom chimes in and says that he thinks it's a remnant of the Age of Legends, perhaps made by Aes Sedai.
And that kind of makes sense, just because the Age of Legends, like legendary things probably existed,
Yeah.
and this gigantic magical looking bridge, probably one of them.
Yeah, and there's no record of it actually being built or
Yeah.
anybody who can remotely say, here's how this giant white gleaming
Yeah.
structure was built. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But Rand is looking at this giant, like, snow white bridge as they're getting closer, and he thinks he briefly sees a shadow pass over it, just for an instant, though, and he doesn't think about it again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what you thought that was.
Yeah,
because it's pretty notable as a sentence there.
It's very noticeable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I wrote here, this scares me.
Okay.
Because Mordeth is a scary shadow man.
Okay, nice.
And we came from the place where all the scary shadow people were waiting.
Okay.
Shadows waiting.
I also wrote down that maybe the shadow rippling across could be like something going across the face of the sun, right? So causing a shadow.
Yeah, sure.
I was thinking like maybe Drakkar.
Perhaps. I don't really know if there are giant fucking bats flying around
In the daytime?
in the daytime.
You don't know that.
And nobody else notices a giant bat in the sky?
I wrote down a couple options for what it might be.
I'm going to go with no.
So do you think that
one.
this is something sinister then?
Definitely.
Okay.
100%. And so I said that like maybe Mordeth the Shadow Man might have been able to follow them out after all.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe. And like maybe that's why Matt is being such a dick.
Yeah.
So like
okay. Just put a big old question mark beside that.
yeah, but the word shadow stood out to me.
Yeah.
Especially because we do have confirmation that Matt stole his dagger. So
He didn't steal it, he just took it.
he okay.
Took it
What
without
is your
permission.
what is your definition of stealing then?
You know, he might return it.
Uh-huh.
Who knows?
That's still stealing. Even if you take something and return it.
You know what? Mordeth was offering them stuff, so I don't know if it's exactly stealing.
Mm-hmm.
He said, go ahead and take some stuff.
Yeah, but then Perrin said they're not going to take anything.
That's true.
Perrin did say it.
Okay, fair point.
Thank you.
Yep.
But anyways, so just an interesting little sentence there to draw some intrigue. But we don't have time to think about that now.
No.
Because the boat is pulling up to the dock, and Daman sees that Gelb is trying to leave the boat, and he yells at him to get off his ship.
Yeah. This is where Gelb's getting kicked off
And
permanently.
never come back. Yeah. And so he slept through watch for the last time. And Gelb kind of grumbles and shoots a look of pure hatred at Rand and his friends. And specifically, a poisonous glare just for Rand.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, because previously on the boat about Gelb,
Yeah.
Tom had said, don't worry, he's not going to cause trouble because the other crew is not going to support him.
Yes.
So he'll maybe talk, but don't worry about him. But now what do you think about Gelb? Do you think he's going to cause trouble?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to be careful of him.
Okay.
I think because he hasn't been able to let it go, and I think because it's actually gotten worse for him, and he blames Rand.
And he's had a week and a half to stew on this as well.
Yes, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So he just goes down to get his things from the bunks, and two other sailors follow him to make sure he doesn't get up to any funny business.
Yeah. Fun little side note, you missed the part where Rand tells Tom, good thing they didn't mutiny on the ship, like right in front of some of the sailors.
Yeah, some of the sailors glare at them, like, don't even say that out loud, stupid.
Yeah, like, don't say mutiny on a ship, don't say bomb on a plane.
Yeah,
It's like,
those are the rules.
Those are the rules, don't do it.
So Rand, Matt, and Tom go to gather their things, you know, what little things that they do have still. And Rand feels very homesick when he puts on Tam's sword.
Yeah, and my one question for you was, did you have any thoughts on what Tam's doing right now? Do you think he's better? Do you think he's back to farming? Did you have any?
Well, I don't know. How long has it actually been?
A couple weeks.
Yeah.
Probably about 3 weeks, less than a month though.
Yeah. So I think he's still healing.
Okay.
I think he wants to be up and about.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he actually physically probably has the strength.
Okay.
Because Moraine said that...
It's going to take you a while?
Yeah, and when Nynaeve caught up to them, she said that he could barely walk.
Yeah.
And so if your herniated disc is any...
We're like 3 weeks out now.
Yeah, and you're still...
I can like barely...
Exactly. And I mean, I have to say, Tam is probably a little bit tougher than you.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm shocked. Yeah, I'm not really actually shocked, but, you know, I'd like to say that I am.
You're not the toughest.
No, I'm not.
You're kind of a baby.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I think that Tam is probably still in the Two Rivers. I think he's probably wanting to go because he said he was probably going to go and meet up with them or try to find them or something.
But not yet.
I don't think yet.
Okay.
I think that we're going to get some sort of call to him when he goes to do something.
Okay.
I'm hoping for a switch to, like, Tam's perspective.
Ooh, that'd be
just,
cool.
like, super random. I'm not hopeful for it, especially in this book. But
Okay.
maybe.
Maybe in the future?
Yeah. So I think that if he's up to anything, I think we would probably hear about it.
Yeah.
I don't think he would do anything interesting without us knowing about it.
Yeah, okay.
Is that fair?
I can get on board with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So they go to unload off onto the dock here, and Rand watches Gelb disappear into the crowd, but not before feeling the hatred coming off of him in waves. And so I just said another note here, definitely be careful.
Yep.
And the squad looks around, and they don't see Moraine or anyone else that they know. But, like, I didn't expect them to
Yeah,
be
like,
there.
was he really actually expecting them to be, like, waiting at the docks, like, waving
Waving?
at him?
Yeah, that's what I pictured. Like a
Hello.
nice welcome. Oh, it's like, no, they're in
Yeah.
hiding, guys. Anyways, Tom agrees with me and tells the boys to watch out for Gelb because he is going to make trouble if he can, and they want to pass through Whitebridge basically without being noticed.
And you know when anybody ever says we need to be super quiet so nobody even notices us, that's probably not going
That's
to happen.
exactly what's going to happen, Brett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's the kind of book it is.
So as they go to leave, they're actually stopped by Damin, who doesn't want the Glee Man to leave.
Yeah, it turns out.
He's realized how helpful it can be to have somebody keeping the crew's spirits up, especially if you want to work them really hard and basically give them no breaks.
Yeah, which makes me believe that the crew was actually close to mutinying against Damin.
Yeah.
And Tom legitimately did something to prevent that from happening.
Good for Tom.
Yeah.
So the captain actually offers Tom and the boys passage to Ilion, and I looked at the map here.
Yeah.
So
We've got a couple references to Ilion before.
right, and that's way in the south.
Yes.
But the Metherendrel
Yep.
is the river that goes from Whitebridge all the way down to Ilion.
Yes, and Ilion is the city where the Great Hunt of the Horn is super popular.
Yes.
Because we got that differentiation between Ilion being the Great Hunt and the Borderlands being about the Eye of the World.
Right.
Yeah.
So apparently in Ilion, though, there are competitions for gleemen for who can tell the best rendition of the Hunt of the Horn story. And there's no finer place in the world for a gleeman. And so that's definitely a place where they recognize the art.
Yeah.
Tom says, yeah, that'd be nice, but we can't afford to travel with you at the rates that you charge.
Mm-hmm.
And the captain pulls out a money bag and says, well, you know, the damage wasn't that bad, and you definitely earned your keep for the ride here, so here's your money back, plus a bit more. And so now he's actually paying Tom for his services instead of, like, completely ripping him off.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's totally unexpected, at least when I was reading through it. It's like, holy smokes, Dahlman actually gave... Like, he did not seem the kind of guy.
No.
But he also seems like a fair businessman now.
Yeah, but he also wants to give Tom even more money
Yeah.
if he agrees to stay on board until Ilion.
Because it's worth it to not have your crew kill you.
Yes, that is worth it.
It is worth the
turns
gold,
out.
yeah.
And I'm excited here that they got their money back. And at this point, I'm really, really hopeful that they're getting their Aes Sedai coins back. But then I made a note that I don't know if the bond, like, reconnects.
Once it's back in the boys'
If they
hand.
get their coins back or not. And I said, I hope so. And then I also hope that Tom just doesn't keep all the money.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are Matt and Rand going to get their coins back?
Yeah, there's a few things there that are, like, not 100% sure of.
Yeah, so I just made a note there, and I was going to come back to it, and then turns out
No.
I do. But so Tom kind of hesitates, but Rand speaks up and says that they are meeting their friends here, and they can't keep going with him.
Yeah, so Tom's really actually considering this
Well, this
because
is a really great deal for him.
it seems like a good plan.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Objectively, it's a good plan.
Yeah. And I can see why this would be a really good deal for Tom, because he would definitely prefer to go on the boat to Ilion than stay caught up with these boys and the Aes Sedai. But for some reason, he feels the need to stay with them and protect them. So Tom tells Damin that if they don't find their friends, then maybe they'll come back and take him up on that offer. And so Damin sighs and says that he won't be able to reach Ilion as fast as he'd like because the crew will notice if he works them too hard now.
Yeah.
Because, number one, they don't have Gelb to take all their anger out on.
Yeah, it's like
anymore.
that common enemy situation.
Yeah, so they won't have that, and then they also won't have a Gleeman telling stories and giving lessons to stupid idiots.
And entertaining and all that other stuff.
But then Daman says, maybe the Trollocs were after you three anyway. And Rand stays silent like a smart boy.
And Matt
speaks up like a fool.
Yeah.
And says all angrily, they were after us. They were after our treasure. And again, with the treasure.
The really interesting part about this is that every time, or nearly every time Matt speaks now, it's always the word demanded.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you look at it, it's always Matt demanded, Matt demanded, Matt demanded. And that's what I was talking about. Matt's getting progressively more aggressive in his speech.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, if you watch it through this chapter, it definitely happens.
Yeah, and here I'm just actually kind of interested to know why Trollocs would be following Daman in the first place anyway.
The only hint we got was that Daman's a collector of strange things and artifacts, which is what he kind of thought, but there's not really a connection there either.
Right, but he's really sure.
Yeah, and we had that conversation because he came down from the Borderlands, and we know possibly that the Trollocs were coming from the Borderlands to Emond's Field, so they might have just been taking roughly the same path, and he might have seen them, so thought they were chasing him.
Maybe.
And then Daman thinks that they might be chasing him because he has a bunch of stuff from, olden times and whatever.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
he's not sure either.
Yeah,
so.
And I really was sure that it was the whole there's Trollocs chasing these boys thing. So
they're both roughly heading in the same direction.
Yeah, that's what I was really on board with. Except in this chapter, there's actually several mentions of it.
Yeah.
About Daman not being sure or thinking that the Trollocs are after him specifically.
Okay.
Just enough to pique my interest about it.
Yeah.
And just make a note about it in my brain.
Okay. Well, tuck that one away.
Yes. Well, and especially because we did a little while ago have a discussion about the whole ways and traveling and how they're making the Trollocs appear and disappear.
Because we don't know what the ways are, and we don't know how the Trollocs are getting there.
Right. And are they actually traveling in herds down there?
Yeah.
Or are they appearing and disappearing, and then Trollocs are actually after Daman?
Yeah.
So
it's a whole bunch of really good questions. Yeah.
With no answers.
What would Trollocs want with a pirate?
To eat him. Put him in a cook pot.
Perhaps.
So as they head into Whitebridge, people start noticing Tom's Gleeman cloak, and they start sort of yelling at him and asking him where he's performing. And this pisses Rand off because he thinks so much for going unnoticed.
Yeah.
And Tom should have taken off his coat.
Yeah. It's interesting that a Gleeman cloak is a noticeable thing.
Right. It's
that people
not
recognize.
Just Tom has a funny outfit.
It's like a mark of the art.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Rand says we have to find Moraine and the others, and fast. And he's being really optimistic here, I think, that it'll just be easy to find them, and then also that they're here at all.
I agree. I think he's being way too optimistic that they probably moved the fastest out of the bunch. They were on a boat.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
So Tom says that they need to talk to an innkeeper because they will have the information on newcomers and have sort of all the gossip and the news, but it needs to be the right innkeeper. And he tells the boys that they have to talk where it's safe, just the three of them, and turns on his heels and heads off. And it turns out Whitebridge is about as big as Baerlon, but doesn't have as many people. So a picture is painted here because there's this huge milk white bridge that comes down in the center of the city, and then there's a big sort of city square around it. And so in the square there are a couple inns, and Tom chooses one, quote, seemingly at random.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's very random.
He seems like he knows what he's doing, and he's done this sort of thing before.
Yeah, he's very calculated about what he's doing. So the inn that he goes into is called the Wayfarer's Rest, which I think is a mouthful to say. It's not a catchy name.
No, try saying it with an accent.
What kind of accent?
The weird British fake fantasy world accent.
The Wayfarer's Rest?
Yeah, now say it like you're hollering
No,
Like, come
I
stay
can't.
at the...
I can't. I'm not doing this. So when they enter, the common room is empty, and the innkeeper is pouring some ale for two guys sitting by themselves at the back table.
The fat innkeeper.
Yeah, where
Really painting a picture here.
Rand wonders if all innkeepers are fat and losing their hair, and I just think that's funny.
Yeah.
Because maybe.
Well, Bran.
And then Master Fitch.
Yeah. And now this guy.
Yep. All
Okay.
of them. It's all of them.
There you go.
So the room is split into two by a shoulder-high wall, and the innkeeper tells them the best place to talk, like privately, is on the other side of that wall. But he quickly asks if the Gleeman would be staying because people would pay a great deal to see a Gleeman. And so this is a popular guy.
Yeah.
And he is not in the mood for any of this, but I think that he's using it to his advantage.
He absolutely is. And he's also kind of insulted, we get in a couple paragraphs.
Yeah, because he says that, oh, I'll give you a deal on a room and your food. And he's like, a good innkeeper would just give me my room for free.
And he's kind of got a point.
Yeah, and he'd pay me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something to be said for live music and entertainment.
Well, yeah, especially in a place where they haven't seen a Gleeman in a while.
Yeah.
So Tom says, maybe, pretty politely, but right now all they need is some privacy, so maybe later. And they go off to take a table on the other side of the wall, but at a table in the middle of the room, so they can see all around if anyone decides to try and listen.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's okay. So Matt and Rand notice that the inn is actually quite dirty, and I think it's Rand who makes a mental note about how Master Alvir would never let his inn get this dirty.
Yeah, he does make that note.
Which is funny.
Even if he had to climb out of the sickbed to do it himself.
Yes. Yeah. And Matt wants to know why they chose this place because it's gross.
And big side note, it says, why here, Matt demanded.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, look at you picking things up.
Yeah.
So Tom explains that straight on from the Whitebridge is the road to Camelin, and anyone passing through here would have to come through this square. So he goes on to say that if there is no word of the others here, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah, so not seemingly random, that's very calculated.
Yeah, but the boys are told to let him do all the talking, and I wonder if they will listen this time.
Yeah, because they haven't in the past, ever.
No, they're bad at that.
Yeah, pretty bad.
So the innkeeper comes over with the wine and tells Tom that if he stays, he won't have to pay for his wine. And it's just like he's like sweetening the deal like a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe he thinks he is anyway. But Tom says smoothly here like that he'll think on it, and he asks if there is any news. And the innkeeper says, oh, there's big news, and he pulls up a chair and joins them at their table.
Yeah, and you're going to get a bunch of world building right now, so we can find out what's been happening in the outside world.
Yeah, cool.
Since these guys have left Emmons Field.
Right, so the innkeeper's name is Bartim.
Yep.
And he goes on to tell them about how Logain, the false dragon, has been captured after a big battle near Lugard. How do you say it?
Yeah, that's Lugard.
And this was while he was trying to move his army from Gildan to Tyr.
And we talked about this previously because when we first heard that Logan was trying to get to Tyr, we looked at the map and there was a huge distance and he'd have to go through a bunch of nations.
Yes.
And then we found out that was because of the prophecy saying that the dragon has to take the stone of Tyr.
Right. So, yeah, last we heard of this guy, he had named the army that were following him, the people of the dragon, and he wanted to head to Tyr. And we also know that Tyr is where the sword that isn't a sword is held. Is that what the stone is?
Yes, the stone of Tyr holds the sword that is not a sword.
And apparently the true dragon reborn is the only one who can have it?
Yes,
it said.
It said that the true dragon is the only person who can handle or take or wield or draw. It's not really clear,
right?
Because we don't actually even know if it's actually a sword.
No, it's not a sword. It's a sword that isn't a sword.
Right.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
So
I mean, exactly.
Yeah. So I actually looked at the map here, and Lugard seems to be about halfway to Tyr from Gildan.
Yep.
And it actually sits directly south of Camelin.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. So Bartim goes on to say that the roads in the south are all packed with people, all fleeing in different directions, refugees trying to find a safe place, and the Aes Sedai have been involved in taking Logain, and apparently are taking the false dragon north to Tar Valon.
Yeah, and that's two really interesting points. One, because the refugees are totally not all just innocent refugees.
Yeah.
Like half of it's got to be the army.
Yeah, but they're
That was
not.
Logain.
But they're all like not claiming to be.
Oh yeah,
dark
not
friends.
gonna. Yeah, once you lose, you're not gonna say
they're
that.
not owning up to it.
Yeah, and the other side is that, like you said, since Lugard is directly south of Caemlyn, then to get back to Tar Valon, they got to go up north through Caemlyn to Tar Valon.
Yeah, and he says there are rumors that the Aes Sedai are stopping in every village along the way to show everyone that Logain has been caught. And I just make a note here.
Power move, hey?
Yeah,
Okay.
we also get word that 2 years ago, the last time there was a false dragon caught, there had been no need for Aes Sedai because the guy couldn't wield the one power or, quote, do things like this Logain can, and the soldiers were the ones who caught him and brought him all around, chained up in a wagon so the villagers could, like, throw stones at him.
Yeah, it kind of seems barbaric when the Aes Sedai are doing it, too, if you're going to parade a prisoner around.
It just doesn't strike me, like, maybe because that for sure happened last time.
Yeah.
The word is they're gonna do it this time.
Okay, I like that.
I just don't know. It just struck me as something kind of weird that I didn't think they would want to do.
Okay.
Anyway.
I can definitely agree with that.
And this is all secondhand word at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced.
Okay. Do you have any confidence that Tom's not questioning it? Because he seems pretty well traveled.
I don't know what Tom's doing.
He doesn't out loud.
And I don't think he would.
Okay. You don't think he would try to call Bartim on it?
Why would he do that at this point?
I'm asking questions here. That's all I'm doing.
It doesn't even make sense. He's trying to like gain favor with this guy and talk him up and pretend like he might play there. And there's no way he's going to like argue with anything he's saying. That would just be stupid. They're trying to get information from him, Brett. You have a lot to learn about getting information from people.
Clearly.
So, Bartim also says that they'll be stopping in Caemlyn to show Queen Morghese.
Yes.
And so we get a named queen here, which is also interesting.
Because you had brought up previously about the whole existence of a Queen of Andor, because
Yes.
we saw that in the Queen's Blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at the...
not the Queen's Blessing. The Queen's Writ. We get the Queen's Blessing later in this chapter.
Oh, did I confuse those?
Yeah. It's the Queen's Writ, which says mutiny is bad. Don't mutiny.
Don't mutiny.
Yeah. Don't do it.
I did confuse those. So yeah, but looking at the map, the Two Rivers falls within the borders of Andor.
Right.
And if this queen is Morghese, means that Queen Morghese is Queen of Andor.
Cool.
Yeah.
And she sits in Caemlyn.
Yeah.
Which is, you told me, the capital of Andor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's all. They just want to show her, apparently, too, which also seems weird, but whatever.
Yeah.
So Rand listens intently to this news and thinks about how Padden Fane had brought this news to Emmonsfield and how it had been the biggest news in years.
Yeah.
So Tom says that he wishes he had been there, and it sounds like the truth.
Yeah.
And he says it'll be a story worth telling for 1,000 years. And Bartim says that the only thing he knows is that they're taking him north, and if they want to see Logain, they should probably go to Caemlyn. He also says that there isn't anything that happens in Whitebridge that he doesn't know about.
Yeah. The funniest part is that Bartim would probably tell his grandchildren that he had seen Logain, whether he had or had not.
Yeah.
Totally made me think of The Office when it's like, you take these rocks, you go buy, you sell them, you go buy yourself a nice spaceship.
Yeah, that's funny.
Scran Strangler.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Except that Michael did see the Scran Strangler.
He did. But that's just like 100% in my mind. Bartim is like Michael Scott.
Sure.
It's great.
So Tom coolly uses this and says that he probably has a lot of strangers come through here. And Bartim takes this and goes off about how someone from Ilion had come up who had been sent to read a proclamation in every corner of the world. And Ilianers, is that how you say that?
Yeah. From Ilion.
Yeah. Are calling on everyone who will swear their lives to the great hunt for the horn and to gather in Ilion.
Yeah, and that's kind of a huge world-building event in these couple paragraphs here, because now we know that the Great Hunt for the Horn is like an event that is going to take place, and they're getting people from all across the world to come down to Ilion to like embark on this quest.
Yeah, and we know that book 2 is called The Great Hunt.
We do know that too. That's a pretty big indicator. So there's like a little bit of prelude to that.
Cool.
And then he does say that there's claims that the end of the world is coming, that the last battle with the Dark One's coming, and then they have to find the horn before that.
Yeah.
So it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and then so the innkeeper here says he doesn't know about all of that, but this winter has been bad, so maybe evil times are coming.
Yeah.
And he asks Tom what he thinks. So Tom seems lost in thought here, and he actually recites sort of a part of the Great Hunt story.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And he sort of is staring off and doesn't really answer. So then Rand takes this opportunity to ask about his friends. And I knew that someone was going to not listen to the instructions.
Yeah, and Tom is clearly going like a super roundabout way to like meander around the point to finally come back to it, and
so
Rand just like jumps in.
So it's not so pointed, and Rand...
Hey, we're looking for a couple strangers.
Yeah, that's not letting Tom do all the talking.
Yeah.
So he asks about his friends and if they have passed through here. So Bartom says that there are always some strangers passing through here. And then he says, what do they look like? And so Tom actually cuts Rand off here before he can say anything further. And he gives sort of just a brief description of the 2 men and 3 women they're looking for.
Yeah, pretty vague, sounds like.
Yeah, but the innkeeper doesn't think it's vague enough because he stands up sort of abruptly and says, forget about performing here. In fact, I want you to leave right now. Leave Whitebridge if you're smart.
Yeah, and the only thing I wrote down was, uh-oh.
I actually wrote down uh-oh too.
Yeah, that's an uh-oh moment.
Shit.
Like, if any part of this chapter was, like, a good, first time for uh-oh.
Yeah. So Tom asks if others have been asking about them as well. And the innkeeper sort of nods and says about a week ago, a Weasley crazy fellow came over the bridge, never stopped moving, and kept talking to himself. And right away I think, oh shit, it's Fane.
Well, yeah, that's the only kind of crazy person.
Weasley guy.
Yeah, like he was nuts when we saw him in Baerlon.
And then I said, what an asshole.
Yeah.
And then I'm so annoyed at Rand and Matt for not recognizing this description of him.
Oh yeah, totally don't even pick up on it.
Especially Rand, who saw him all crazy in Baerlon.
But again, it's kind of pointing to the fact that Rand and Matt are still so fresh to the world. Like, in their minds, they couldn't imagine the fact that Fane...
someone they know.
Yeah, who was crazy in Baerlon, beat them to Whitebridge and is asking for them. Like, that's super weird in itself.
Yes.
It is a very weird circumstance.
Yeah, I know.
And jumping ahead a little bit, we know that the Fade is looking for the exact same descriptions. So Fane is asking for the same descriptions as a Murdral is. Mm-hmm. Weird.
So this crazy man has been asking about a fighting man and a woman in silk, but who he really cares about are 3 country boys. And he's really desperate to find them, but also really fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So Rand shivers and wonders who this crazy man could be. And I go, Rand, come on. This one's so obvious.
Yeah.
He thinks, oh, maybe it's a dark friend.
Yeah, well, and also the fact that Fane is zoning in on the 3 boys.
Yeah, why does he want to find them?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it turns out there's bigger news here because there is a Fade who came in asking about them too. So I'm wondering, and I think that you've alluded to this, but why would a Fade be asking the same questions as Pat and Fane?
True.
Right?
Yeah, but
Kinda
I mean,
weird.
okay, but also Tom and Rand and Matt are asking the same questions. So they can all be looking for the same people, but for very different reasons.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a
I
weird
just want to
situation.
know what
Yeah.
Fane is doing, because he seems freaking nuts.
He does seem nuts.
Basically the town cops almost took him into custody for his own safety.
For his own protection, yeah. Also, really interesting point here. So the fact that this man who's describing the Murdral, who's clearly come a couple times to ask about these people, people don't know what a Murdral is.
Yes. Well, even when Rand, he's heard of like Fades before and Murdral before.
But he saw one on the road.
And he didn't connect the dots.
So it's a really big kind of huge mark to know that people who don't know that Trollocs and Fades are more than just legends, like, they look like people. Trollocs, I can understand people would get freaked out over because they're giant, scary murder monsters. But a Fade looks like a person dressed all in black.
Yeah, he's all in black, keeps his hood up, his face in the shadow. But when he speaks, it sounds like a snake crawling through dead leaves.
So just like a really weird, creepy person.
And I said, I didn't know that Fades could just go up and talk to people. Like, that's news to me.
Turns out. Yeah. So that's like a huge point for later, too. Just to keep it in your mind that a Fade can look like anybody, basically, and they can blend in.
Yeah, the cloaked rider.
Yeah, unless someone knows what a Fade is. Yeah. So
that's fair. Or if they see his face and he doesn't have eyes.
That might be a bit of an indicator.
That one sounds...
It's a little bit prejudiced towards people who don't have eyes, though.
Oh, yeah? And just have, like, skin over where their eyes should be?
Right.
Right. Sorry about that.
Shoot.
So it turns out the Fade has come back several times and asked the same questions every time. But he says that, you know, in the questions, there's a girl with them and a white-haired gleeman.
Ooh.
Ooh, uh-oh.
And Tom does a terrible job of...
that couldn't be me. I don't.
Yeah, there's lots of white hair gleemen out there.
Oh, not just me.
I'm not the only one.
Asking for these people and traveling with these people.
Yeah.
Okay, bye now.
At this point, it's a little bit too little, too late.
Way too late. Yeah. And so the innkeeper is done talking with them now and tells them to drink their wine and go. And when Bartim sort of disappears around the corner, Matt goes, "Oh shit, the Fade!" And Tom says that he will be back, and they should go to the boat now and take Damen up on that offer. And if they go to Ilion, the Fade will never expect that. But I'm on board with Rand here.
Yeah.
Because he says no, like quite firmly. They're going to wait for Moiraine and the others and go to Caemlyn. But they go back and forth a little bit, and Rand stands firm and says that the Fade will find them wherever they go. Mm-hmm. They can't escape the dreams. But then Tom says that the dreams can't hurt him, and Rand wishes he had told Tom about the dream with the poking his finger and then waking up with a bloody finger.
Yeah.
And it's like, that dream hurt me, so...
I mean, it's interesting. He's clearly shared some of the dreams with Tom.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but some.
Well, we heard it.
Yeah.
We were there in Baerlon when Matt and Rand told him about the first dream.
Yeah, but also we have 10 days of lapse time that we don't know.
That's
so
true.
Tom seems to know a little bit more about these dreams in my mind,
okay, so. That's fair. But Rand seems really intent on finding out what's happening to him, and he's set on going to Tar Valon, even alone if he has to. So Matt gets kind of pissed off here and tells Tom to just go if he wants to. And he says they can take care of themselves and don't need him. And Rand realizes that Matt has his hand on the dagger's hilt under his cloak, maybe even ready to use it.
Yeah, so this is crazy. So we're ramping up the aggression on
Yeah,
Matt.
and I said, here's another instance of Matt being super quick to anger. But just then, they hear a bunch of laughter from the other side of the wall, and the one guy is saying that Trollocs are the craziest thing he's ever heard. Like, they're borderland fables, and...
Yeah, and that kind of points to the point of what I just said about the Murdral and the Trollocs.
Yeah.
If you really think they're actually just stories, you're not going to know what a Murdral is.
Right.
And turns out, it's Gelb.
Yeah, Rand peeks over the wall and sees that Gelb is at the table with those other two guys. So, like, already he's causing trouble. I said, that's not good.
Yeah.
So these men are laughing at Gelb here, and Gelb is going on about how there were Trollocs on Bael Damon's ship, and the three claimed that the Trollocs were chasing them, but he knows better. And that's why he couldn't continue on the spray. So he's had his suspicions about Damen for a long time, but those three were dark friends for sure. And so obviously he's talking about Rand, Matt, and Tom.
Yeah, which is bad news because if this Murdral is in this town asking a bunch of people, probably not just this one innkeeper, about these three people plus all the others, and now we have Gelb running his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all pointing to bad things.
And if he's being called a dark friend, Rand and Matt have already had run-ins with White Cloaks.
Yeah.
So even if it's not a fade, it's not good that somebody is running their mouths about how they're dark friends.
Yeah. Bringing Trollocs. So
Yeah.
there's like a trail of information that they're leaving behind in each town.
Yeah,
each
it's
city.
so bad.
Yeah.
So Rand notes that the only door out of this place is like directly past the table that Gelb is at, so there's no like real escape. And Matt mutters that like maybe the boat isn't such a bad idea after all. But Tom says that that's not an option for them anymore because that story will be all over town in an hour and Daman isn't sailing until tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So Daman will have Trollocs chasing him down to Ilion now, but for some reason he's expecting it anyway. So that's just like another mention of Daman expecting Trollocs to be chasing him.
Yeah, that's very true. Whether or not it's for Daman or for the fact that the Fate thinks that they might be on the boat.
Yeah, we don't know. But the only thing that they can do now is run for it. And Tom pulls out the money bag and starts splitting up the money in case they get separated. And then I'm annoyed to find that Daman didn't give them their Aes Sedai coins back.
Yeah.
So boo that.
He probably collected them or something.
Boo that.
You know, it's also a funny note about the size and weight of coins because you'd have to assume that each country has different sizes and weights. Like there's probably not one universal currency.
Yeah. He doesn't even blink. Like it's not even,
yeah.
Oh, this is a weird coin.
Yeah, it just takes out the scales.
It's just silver. I'm going to weigh it. Here's how much it is in these silvers or whatever, right?
Yeah. So, easy question for you. When you were reading this, when Tom starts dishing out the coins, and like, if we're separated, do this and this, did you just like have a little gut feeling that they were going to get separated, or did you think they were going to stick together?
It didn't really cross my mind.
Oh, it didn't?
That
at that
wasn't
point?
Something I thought about.
Okay. Yeah, it's just kind of funny because, like, obviously in this chapter we know that there's a clear separation.
Yeah.
But when I read it after knowing what happens, it's always like, oh, is that just such an intentional, like, drop that Tom dished out the coins right before something happens? Or was that just good thinking on his part?
I took it as good thinking on his part because you never really know.
Yeah.
And Tom just seems to be preparing.
Yeah, he does.
Like, in a little while, he goes and even, like, changes his cloak. Like, he's just, like, getting ready to leave. And I think it's just part of the preparations.
Okay.
I don't think that he's anticipating actually having to be separated from them.
Yeah.
At this point, anyway.
Okay.
Maybe before he thought about it, but I don't think so.
Okay.
So Rand says that he thought Tom was staying with them. And Tom says that he can, if he can help it. And then he asks Matt if it's okay if he stays with them a little longer. Because Matt's clearly, like, uppity about everything.
Yeah.
And Matt shrugs, but then says, I've been on edge lately. He feels like somebody is staring at the back of his head all the time. And then I said, oh, maybe there is.
Is that shadow that you're mentioning?
Yeah, maybe Mordeth followed him and wants his dagger back.
Maybe.
Whoa!
But Mordeth said he could have it.
I don't know. There's just specific lines and ways that things are said that make me just read into them so much.
They just don't seem coincidental?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Tom gets up and stays sort of crouched, though, so that they can't be seen over this sort of shoulder height wall.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys follow him over to the window. And he lifts it up just enough for them to squeeze through, and they drop into an alley. So there you go for your quick escape.
Yeah.
And Tom says that they can't go anywhere until they have a plan, and Matt is a little skeptical and asks why he's doing this.
He doesn't just say...
Does he demand?
He demands. He says, why are you doing this, Matt? Demand it again.
Wow.
You'd be safer if you left us. Why are you staying with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like a trio, and it just continuously... Matt is on this slippery slope downwards, and it's almost like that one part where he says, I'm just on edge.
Yeah.
Feels like somebody's staring. It's like... That is one little moment of Matt being Matt.
Yeah.
Before he's back into the whole anger and aggression.
Yeah, like he realizes what's happening to him, but he can't get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where Tom decides to tell his story and tell them why he has been looking out for them.
Yes, I love this so much. This is the part I was talking about.
Yeah.
About, oh my God.
Yeah, so basically he's looking out for them from Moraine.
Yes.
So, turns out he had a nephew named Owen, and his brother's only son and his only living kin.
Yes.
So he got into trouble with the Aes Sedai, whatever that means, but Tom wasn't there to help him because he was busy with, quote, other things.
Yeah.
And when he did try to help, it was too late. Owen died a few years later, and you could say that the Aes Sedai killed him.
Yes.
And
so let's hit the backtrack button on that.
Okay, but I also want to head over to that prediction board.
Yes.
Where I predicted that Tom doesn't like the Aes Sedai or Red Aja because someone close to him was gentled.
You did say that.
And then give a gold star to me.
Yes. Yeah, so let's just clarify a few things, because in that Min viewing, we got the viewing that said it was a man, not him, juggling fire and the White Tower.
Yeah.
And that kind of calls back to what kind of trouble can a man get into with the White Tower, and there's really only one kind of trouble, and that is channeling.
Yes.
Which would be the allusion to juggling fire. So it makes sense that if Owen was having these problems, right?
Yeah.
And by problems, I mean like starting to channel, maybe
having
reactions, maybe like, I don't know, lightning storms shooting down out of the sky, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And then Tom wasn't there for whatever reason, which we can speculate on. But he wasn't there when his nephew needed him. And now, when Tom sees these three boys being taken out of this village by an Aes Sedai, and he knows what an Aes Sedai is, it's a callback to these three boys being like
his nephew.
His nephew, in his way, where if he can help them, it's like he would be saving his nephew.
Yes.
In a way.
That's how he feels, yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, because Tom feels really guilty that he wasn't able to help his nephew, and feels that maybe he can like make up for it by protecting these boys and keeping them free of Tar Valon.
Yeah, and it's like, if you don't like Tom, you have to like Tom now, because like the guilt that he feels over Owen, it clearly has stuck with him forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, he didn't do the right thing then,
but
and
I
he's
don't
trying to make
really
up
know
for it.
what he really would have been able to do anyway.
Probably nothing.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that he wasn't there for him.
Yeah. Like the survivor's guilt kind of thing.
Huge.
Like he wasn't there to actually help him.
And that also kind of puts a big picture back into our suspicions about what gentling means. About gentling doesn't mean killing the man. It means cutting them off from the true source.
Yeah.
Right? From the one power.
Which eventually somehow leads to their death.
A couple years later. Right? Whether it's through like depression or
and this
whatever
is
it might be.
The second time we've heard, I think it's Tom, say the sentence, "You could say the Aes Sedai killed him."
So that is what kind of makes it sound a lot like gentling isn't killing.
Yeah.
But it's like,
makes somebody want to be dead.
Yeah. I mean, huge depression, which typically ends in suicide.
Right. So, poor Tom.
Yeah.
But just then, Tom puts his stuff down and says, "Wait here," and takes off. And Matt says that he really doesn't think that he'd leave his instruments and stuff here, so he must be coming back. But then he asks Rand if he believes that story. And Rand just sort of sits down next to Matt and says, like, "Hey, man.
You're kind of being a dick.
What's going on? Like, you aren't like this. I haven't heard you laugh in days." And Matt sort of snaps on him and says that he just doesn't like being hunted like a rabbit. But then he sighs and says he's just so nervous with all the running and all these strangers, wondering if they're going to tell the Fades about them, and it makes him jumpy. So, fair, but come on, man. But Matt then asks what Rand thinks the Aes Sedai did to Tom's nephew. And Rand thinks about the only kind of trouble that a man can get into with the Aes Sedai, and says that, well, it's not like us.
Yeah.
And Matt agrees. And I think this is a funny foreshadow, because it certainly is like them.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like that.
Yeah, except the only difference is the Dark One wants them.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it different.
Okay.
I think.
What do you mean?
Well, they're not just a typical man who can channel.
Okay, I gotcha.
Like, there's more to them.
It's similar.
But, like, men who can channel typically aren't also being hunted by Trollocs and Murdral.
Yeah, they're just hunted by
Red Aja.
Yeah.
But at this point, Moraine, who's an Aes Sedai, is like protecting them, almost in a sense from the Red Ajah. And I mean, like, we're really far from that in the story, I think. So I don't know. I think that they're different in a way. Same, but different.
Yeah, agreed.
So they wait for Tom here in silence, and when a black cloak figure shows up in the alley and starts going towards them, Rand feels like instant panic and reaches for his sword while Matt like sort of crouches with the dagger.
It's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
And then the man pulls his hood back, and turns out it's Tom, who went to find a disguise so the guards at the gates don't recognize him as a Gleeman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phew.
Yeah, and he goes, oh, good, you don't recognize me. This is no time to be skittish.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, man.
You know what you look like.
Yeah. So Rand actually realizes that the cloak is brown and not black, but both of the boys are still on edge.
Yeah.
And so they have a plan to leave the alley one at a time as to not draw suspicion, and Tom tells Rand to slouch so his height doesn't make him stand out.
Yep, because he's really tall.
Right, as if you haven't gotten that picture yet.
Yeah, taller than everybody else.
Yeah. So as they step into the square, no one notices them, and they just start to go as Rand is doing a surveillance of the square. And then as he looks back, he sees a fade halfway across the square. He can't figure out where it had come from, but it starts towards them with a slow, deadly walk like a predator with its prey under its gaze.
And let's talk about this. How casual does RJ throw into a paragraph that all of a sudden there's a fade there?
I know.
In the writing, you have to go back and reread it.
You're like, what the fuck?
I love his writing because it's like you're reading and you read, you're like, what do you mean?
Yeah, what?
What? There's a withdrawal? Because it's like, that's how it should be. Because I've read so many book series where it's like, all of a sudden, or out of nowhere, this guy popped up. It's like, no, it's just kind of like inserted into the paragraph so that you as the reader don't even know that it's happening.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So Rand is frozen on the spot in fear, and he tries to summon the void, but like can't do it at all. And then Tom mutters to them like something about don't look at its face.
Yeah.
And Rand notices that Matt has the dagger out, and his lips were drawn back from his teeth, a snarl and a rictus of fear.
Yes. And if you think about it, Matt also has his bow.
Yeah.
Matt has his gigantic longbow that he's really, really good with.
Yes.
And reasonably, you should pull that out first and take a shot if you're going to fight it. Yeah,
he's been reaching for this dagger for the last like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So he really wants to pull it out.
Yeah.
But I have a note here.
Okay.
So the thing that Rand notices about Matt is that his lips are drawn back from his teeth with a snarl and a rictus of fear.
Yes.
This is important. In the chapter, Shadows Waiting, More Death gets really pissed off when Rand noticed that he doesn't have a shadow.
He does.
And this is a quote from that chapter.
Okay.
You're laughing at me.
Yeah, for a good reason. I'm smiling, I'm not laughing.
Okay, so More Death is described as hollow-cheeked, teeth bared in a rictus snarl.
Yeah.
So literally...
Interesting.
Exactly the way that Matt's looking right now.
So do you want to talk about that, or do you want to go to the next paragraph here?
I think we've got it covered. No, I think that I've been talking about this for a long time now, that for sure something is up with this dagger.
Yeah.
For 100% sure it has to do with More Death. There was a shadow over the bridge that Rand noticed anyway. Matt's acting like a completely different human.
Yeah.
And so it's just, what is actually going on? I can't really say, but it seems like Matt said he feels like somebody's watching the back of his head.
Yeah.
And now he's sort of acting like More Death.
So while the boys were in Shadow Logoth, they also, when they were on their way back, they had mentions of the Watchers.
Yeah.
And then it felt like 1,000 eyes were staring at them from all different directions all the time.
Right.
Right? And then we also know that the entire tale of how More Death way back in the day came to power was that he went into the kingdom, befriended the king, and then all of a sudden, and I say all of a sudden, but it's like over the course of time, everybody turned in on each other, and like the city self-imploded because everyone was suspicious and, hateful, and they were doing these terrible things under the guise of it's for the light.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like something is happening to Matt, and it's because he took this dagger, and it has to do with more death and...
And it sounds similar to what happened to the city.
Yeah, but now it's just happening specifically to Matt.
Yeah. Well, when I say it happened to the city, it happened to every single person in Erido.
Right, but what I'm picturing, or what comes to my mind when we're talking about Matt in this situation, is Venom.
Okay.
So that it's kind of a bad movie.
It's not the best movie. There's been better movies.
Yeah, so relatively recent, the movie Venom, where the weird slime ball basically gets inside the guy and takes over his brain.
Yeah, okay.
And talks to him, but only inside his head.
Okay.
That's what I'm envisioning.
Like there's like a third party in Matt's head, or like a second party in Matt's head.
Right, who doesn't necessarily speak to him, but is almost like within him, controlling his emotions and...
Okay. Did you ever read Animorphs as a child?
I'm aware of Animorphs.
I think they were called like the Yerks.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know them that well.
And it was like basically a slug that went into a person's brain and then would take over their body from the inside.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Just a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I don't know. And maybe.
Yeah. Good. I like the predictions. I don't know, and maybe.
Yeah, it's difficult to make a specific prediction right now because...
We don't know enough.
No, I don't know what he's capable of, but I definitely know that it has to do with more death and it has to do with this dagger.
And it's probably not good?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Probably bad?
Probably bad.
Okay.
So Tom asks Rand if he thinks they can outrun it and mutters something to himself, but something about Owen. And he also says that he should have never got mixed up with them, and then he shoves his bundle of Gleeman's cloak and instruments into Rand's arms. And Tom tells the boys that they have to run to Camelin and find the Queen's Blessing, which is an inn in Camelin. And Rand is super confused and doesn't get what's happening. And Tom says, just remember it. And then he goes, run!
And if you're going to cry at some point, this is when.
I guess.
I love this scene. It's so good.
It's good.
It's so good. I love the fact that Rand doesn't understand what Tom is doing. Yeah. Because at this point, Rand can't fathom the fact that Tom is literally going to go sacrifice his life for them.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But
that's what he's doing, though.
Well, he's going to fight the Fade.
He's going with the almost full intention that he's not coming back.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not admitting it yet.
Okay.
I'm not.
Are you doing this whole Game of Thrones thing where, if you don't see them die, they're not dead?
Yes.
Okay, that's what you're doing.
Of course, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. No, that's
Brett,
cool.
don't
it's a different book series.
Nah.
But he does say, remember that in case something, just remember it. But he's thinking, in case, I don't die.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I can find you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a chance that he can beat him. So anyways, Tom pushes actually the shoulders of the boys to get them going. Yeah. And shouts, run, again.
It's almost like breaking that fear lock that the Murdrell has on them.
And then so he lunges at the Fade, and his daggers appear in his hands as if he were performing, and he really catches the Fade off guard. Yeah. And who sort of reaches for his sword, but Tom is on top of him before he can fully get it. And Rand stops, but Matt pulls him along, and they turn and run away. And Tom is screaming, run at them, and so they do.
Yeah.
And everyone in the square starts running around in every which way, and it's complete chaos. And in the writing here, I really like it, because it says that Whitebridge roiled like a kicked anthill.
Oh, yeah.
I like that imagery.
Oh, it's
just
definitely
like
good.
every which way, ants going crazy.
Yeah.
People bumping into each other, knocking people over, people getting trampled, like this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like
So
great.
we missed a couple important things. I just want to backtrack here.
Okay.
And point out a few things to you. So first off, Tom springs into motion and he makes the knives appear. And we got a call back when they were leaving Shadar Logoth. Tom killed a couple Trollocs with a set of knives.
Yeah, and
with his second best set of knives.
Right.
And now, do you assume that these are his best daggers that he pulled out?
I would assume so.
Okay. Well, this is the other important part, is that as Tom crashes into the Murdral and is yelling, "Run!" it says, "The air in the square flashed an eye-searing blue, and Tom began to scream."
Oh.
You missed that?
100% missed that.
So that's really important, because we see a flash of bright blue light when Tom hits the Murdral. And the last time we saw a giant flash of blue light was back in Chapter 18 on the Camelin Road.
When Lan
is fighting the Murdral, and his warder blade clashes with the Murdral blade made in Thakandar.
Yes.
And that's really important, because a warder blade, it's a fair assumption that a warder could have some sort of magical weapon.
Yeah.
Because he's like protecting Aes Sedai.
Sure.
That emits a bright blue flash of light when it clashes with Thakandar metal.
Sure.
So Tom's best daggers, which he probably brought out for this fight, which he's willing to die in, is now fighting this Murdral. His best knives are also some sort of magical daggers.
Okay, I'll take it. I like that.
Yeah. And the last important note is that if we can assume that a warder's blade is magical, and we know that Lan's blade is very similar to Tam's sword.
Yes, Tam's sword.
And we also know that Tam's sword, when Rand was chopping up that wood, it didn't dull.
Yeah.
And he conveniently, never thought about that again.
Yeah, and we also, I definitely said, there's definitely something up with this blade.
The biggest difference is that Tam's sword has the heron marks,
yeah,
which indicate a master swordsman.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't dull.
Yeah.
So it does seem like Tam also has the magical blade, which is now in Rand's possession.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting facts.
Good to know.
Yeah, definitely. So, Rand and Mat run for the gates, but they aren't the only ones. And there are, men pulling along their crying wives and women carrying crying babies and children and craftsmen running in aprons, abandoning their goods. And Rand thinks that there would be no way for them to be sort of picked out apart from everyone else who they're leaving with, because everyone is fleeing.
Yeah, it kind of helps them escape the fact that just everyone's swarming to the exits.
Yeah. So Rand and Mat run and run until everyone they left with sort of falls away, and Whitebridge is long behind them.
Yeah.
And so Rand falls to his knees gasping, and Mat tells him that they have to keep going. And Rand is concerned for Tom, and Mat says he's dead and they have to keep going. And Rand yells at Mat, saying, "Well, you think Egwene and Moraine and the rest are dead too, but if they're dead, why are the Murdral still hunting them?"
Yeah, and that's a good point.
And Mat says, "All right, maybe they're still alive, but Tom is dead, you saw, and that can happen to us." And I said, "I don't think Tom is dead, because you have to see them die to count them as dead."
Because you're taking the whole Game of Thrones perspective.
I put Game
Yeah.
of Thrones in quotes over here.
I know, because we had that whole thing about the Hound not dying, and you called it right after he died, in quotes.
Yeah.
Because
I
you're
said
like,
he's
I
not
didn't
dead.
see him die,
He's
so
not
he's not
dead.
dead. And then he didn't die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they like to show death scenes.
Yes.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm trying to think back. I don't think anyone really has died yet.
I don't
that
think
we've
anyone
seen.
of note has died.
Yeah.
Like, it was implied that some people from the Two Rivers may have died
Right.
in the Trolloc attacks.
Yeah, but no one we knew.
No one of consequence that we really care about.
Yeah. I don't know. But I'm trying to be optimistic.
Okay.
And I like Tom.
You like Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just thought this was a super emotional chapter because I love Tom's backstory.
Yeah.
And just the connection, it kind of makes a lot more sense. Like, if you think back to all the conversations we had about why is Tom still here? What is his actual reasons for being here? Is it like a nefarious or sinister thing? Like, he could have bailed so many times.
Yeah, I
but
always thought that he was just sort of looking out for himself.
Yeah.
But then when it starts getting really dicey, like,
Yeah.
what's he doing still sticking around? And it's obvious that he's just trying to look out for these boys.
And the fact that it's because he feels like he didn't do what he needed to do with his nephew, who ended up dying, it's just, like, heart-wrenching.
Yeah, and also, where did Tom get these fancy daggers from?
Yeah. You missed that bright blue flash of light.
I missed it.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know if I missed it or just
read over
it and
I
thought
get it.
it's part of the fight, you know? But
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, here, Rand hesitates and he looks back at the empty road behind him and he's sort of hoping to see Tom hurrying down the road after them, blowing out his mustaches.
Yeah.
Like he usually does. Like, if there is anything to make me think that Tom is dead, it's like the way Rand is remembering him
Okay.
in like sort of a memorialized way.
Yeah.
Right? But the road just remains empty. And so Rand clutches Tom's bundle of stuff and starts going again. And then after sort of mumbling some stuff, Matt catches up to him and they keep going down the road.
Yeah.
And
So it looks like our two boys are setting up for Camelin.
yes, they are, for sure.
Yeah.
Gonna go find the Queen's blessing.
Yeah. And then once they get there, everything will be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they'll just go off to Tar Valon and everybody will be happy.
So do you think that if Tom is alive and he said, go to the Queen's blessing because if, I don't die, I can make it there and find you, do you think that they're going to meet up at the Queen's blessing?
I don't think so.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I think they're like literally running there and won't stop
Okay.
or stop very little unless Tom gets a horse in a way.
Somewhat, or they stay there for a while.
I'm more optimistic that they're going to run into Perrin and Egwene in Camelin.
Yeah, that's possible.
That's what I'm thinking is more of a possibility.
They're kind of both heading in the same general direction now.
Right. And then Nynaeve, Lan, and Moraine are also probably just about to get into Whitebridge.
Yeah, and those three are probably the most capable of the three parties that we have, because
and
it's like Lan and Moraine.
Horseback.
Yeah.
So I think it's most likely that they're gonna, if they're meeting up anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's sort of the turning point. Because all of these young people think that they're gonna go to Tar Valon on their own.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a terrible idea. So I think that Camelin seems to be almost the turning point where they're all sort of gonna wait for each other and then...
And they should hopefully meet up there?
Maybe.
Okay.
When all is right with the world.
Yeah.
And then Tom shows up, playing his flute.
And they have like a big party.
Yeah.
It's great.
I like that Rand has all of his stuff, like Tom's stuff.
He does.
Because if he ever needs to like dress up like a Gleeman and like...
It's funny because it's been mentioned at least twice that Tom never let them touch the harp.
Yeah.
Because it's not for them.
Yeah.
But that Matt is more able to juggle and Rand is more musically inclined.
Right. So they're like a little traveling duo maybe.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, especially the fact that they are now in possession of the Gleeman cloak. I think that's kind of a big deal.
I don't know that they could pose as a Gleeman, though. Like, I don't think that they're that skilled. Gleeman is something of a status.
Maybe.
Like, you have to achieve that. Because, like, the fact that a Gleeman was coming to town, like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I don't think you could fake being a Gleeman.
No.
They could say they're entertainers.
Yeah, but you could also, if they have the cloak, they could get, like, free rooms.
And
they
then
can get free passage, and then, like, bail.
Before they have to, like, do stuff.
They could, like, use it to their advantage.
Yeah.
If they never meet up with Tom again.
Yeah.
They, like, have the stuff, so...
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe.
Right.
It's just a thing. But actually, that's the end of this chapter, and that's going to be the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Because I am super pumped to go on and read.
Did you look ahead at the next chapter?
Something about a storm.
Shelter from the storm.
Shelter from the storm.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But I'm excited. We actually had to wait a little while to record this chapter.
Yeah.
A couple days more than I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I've been eagerly awaiting the time I get to read again.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for this therapy session. I feel like I needed it more than you did this time.
Yeah, the Wheel of Time therapy session. I guess...
That's okay. You're cold-hearted. You don't have a heart. I
didn't think of it as a big deal because I'm just optimistic. And I don't have the clouded mind that you have.
Clouded mind?
Yeah. Because you know what's to come and what's to happen and what to be upset about and what not to be upset about. So I'm chalking it up to that.
Fine.
Fine yourself. All right. Well, this is part of the pattern now.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Wheel Weaves. If you'd like bonus content, including bonus episodes and blooper reels, exclusive insider looks, super cool merchandise, access to our new Discord channel, and of course, to support us making great content, you can head to patreon.com/thewheelweavespodcast. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to us and does actually make a really big difference. Tell your friends or anyone who might like us or anyone who's thinking of getting into the series who might want to follow along with us. You can find us on social media. There's more information on there and some fun pictures and tidbits. On Instagram at The Wheel Weaves Podcast or on Twitter at The Wheel Weaves Podcast. Thanks, as always, to Audionautics.com for the music, and thanks to you, awesome listeners.